do?
Oh, actually, they get hurt. Forbes magazine did a sort of a takeoff almost in every area. Let's say income tax. I told you income tax, if it's a joint family, your taxes are less. And if you file it single, your taxes are higher. So being married to the same sex is actually no benefit. In the state tax, laws allow spouses to transfer as much as they want to each other, either during life or at death, without having to pay any state or gift tax, provided that the recipient spouse is a U.S. citizen. But DOMA, which is again Defense of Marriage Act, does not extend that benefit to the same-sex marriage. Now, if two women get married and one has a child, the other one is not necessarily the parent until she adopts. If she adopts, then the real birth mother is no longer the mother. So if her parents, for instance, were to die and leave a lot of money for that woman and her kid, I'm sorry, it won't reach the kid because the kid is not the real grandchild. Health insurance. In many states, you can go ahead and buy for the family. But there are some states that accept the federal system, which is, for instance, there are companies that want to do self-insured. Well, self-insured is the laws of the federal government. Under that, no. You cannot have same-sex spouse get a coverage. And let's talk about divorce. Divorce is much harder for the couple. Number one item is that there are many states that require residency. These are not the same states that allow the marriage. Unfortunately, for marriage, you have to go to the state that has the residency. I mean, it gets very difficult. And number two, people don't realize when two guys get married, it doesn't matter. Their obligations of debt are as a couple together.
Okay.
So
they
before
have
you
equal
get
shared liability.
That's right. And so Forbes magazine says, fellas and gals, you're going to have to do a prenup. Which is the same thing that is required on the heterosexual marriage.
That really shouldn't surprise us. I mean, prenup is nothing more than just a way to protect yourself financially from any kind of chaos that might occur in your life, including divorce.
That's right.
So it's an agreement, and I think, more and more as people become dual income households, or where, either side carries any significant assets, and let's face it, by the time you get married in your later years, you have assets. So if you have assets, this is just a way to protect those assets from situations getting the better or the best of you, and especially when these kinds of laws might really not protect you in the first place.
That's right. And the first day the New York law got passed, 18,000 applications came in. But when it came to marriage, 20 to 30% of them had a cold feet. And what Forbes is recommending is whatever you do, you must consult an attorney before you get into same-sex marriage, because each individual person has their own set of baggage.
Folks, I read, I guess, a disheartening article out of Time magazine. Actually, it was fascinating, I have to tell you, because the statistics here are very interesting. It's all about how, according to this article, if you are better looking than someone else over the course of your lifetime, you will make more money than them.
Absolutely.
And okay, so most of us maybe know this harsh truth exists, a little bit under the surface, but here is an article that actually substantiates it in terms of real statistics. Folks, let me share this with you. Ugly people earn less than average-looking people, and average-looking people earn less than beautiful people. This is according to some research done at the University of Texas by economist Daniel Hammermesh. And he chronicles this in his new book, Beauty Pays, Why Attractive People Are More Successful. How much more successful? Well, a good-looking man or woman can expect to earn an average of $230,000 more in a lifetime than the person who is plain or homely.
That is so true. I always said a good-looking man and a beautiful girl will always get the first date. To stay in the date, they got to have a character. So you're right. You know, most of the time they get paid more.
Well, they get the job, you know, they'll get noticed more. Certainly certain things are working in their favor. But, you know, in a way, it does speak to how we are very much still visually oriented, and we make judgments, snap judgments, just very quickly based on that first look of attraction that you might feel towards someone. But this is also other interesting statistics in here. So what's the distribution, you would say, across the U.S. of whether people are ugly or good looking? Right? So
they don't call them ugly. They call them
homely.
Homely.
So, you know, the percentage of men and women who are called or would see themselves as homely is only 1 to 2%. If you're quite plain, then you're hovering between 11 and 13% of the population.
That's true.
Right? And if you're average for your age and for your sex, well, you're among 59% of the men and about 51% of the women. So again, that shouldn't surprise us. That's where the biggest bubble is. Good-looking people, only 27% of men are good-looking versus 31% of women. And then finally, as far as being strikingly handsome or beautiful, men 2% and women 3%. So it's a clear bell curve. You can almost picture it.
That's true. But I want to tell you one thing funny. Those who are not good looking, those who are ugly, those who are short, are so full of energy. They are the ones who start businesses. They are the ones who invent things. They are the ones, maybe not generally, but most of them. Look at Warren Buffett. Come on.
I'll tell you why. I mean, it should make sense, because when you aren't necessarily gifted with the natural assets that other people are just born with, you have to work harder at those things. But in doing so, your skills become sharper. Your mind becomes sharper.
Yes.
Your ability to understand and navigate politics becomes better, because you have to survive, and you have to do it without all of the gifts given to you just naturally. So if you manage to survive in that crowd, then you are really something special, and you have to be to get past all the people that make these shallow judgments in the first place.
You remember Napoleon?
Of course.
He was short. You remember Hitler?
He took over the world.
He was shorter. Short and ugly people make big impressions on the world.
Well, here's one more statistic I'll share. How much does discrimination against the ugly cost the economy? Well, according to this author, almost $20 billion a year.
Wow. Talk about beautiful. Some of the bank branches across the country and across the world, some of them are really fantastic. They have tremendous art, gilded ceilings,
marble
lobbies, you know, wooden tailor windows and all of that. Well, in the olden times, that was great. In today's world, not too many people stop by their bank branches.
Well, because most of us are using internet to do a lot of our banking.
Yeah, and you can scan your check to make a deposit. So there is really no reason anymore to go to these bank branches. And so now the banks are thinking of getting rid of their branches.